Play. Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Live. I am Leslie.
And I'm Shannon.
Shannon's here, everybody.
We're giving Ed the day off for this one.
We're so nice.
You know what? Everybody needs a little break.
Isn't that the truth?
Don't we all?
Absolutely. So thank you all for being with us today. Happy Monday. Before we get started, a quick reminder of how to get notified when we go live. So if you actually scroll up, you guys should scroll up right now, or scroll down, I guess is how it is. You scroll down, so we'll go a little higher in the window, and there's a red subscribe button. If you haven't hit that, please do. It actually really helps out our channel. And then hit the bell right next to it. That is the bell notification. You'll just get a little pop-up, for instance, like I did from YouTube right here that said, we're live. We're live right now. And so if I wasn't already watching us on this, I could have tapped that and I would have been able to join from my phone, iPad, computer, wherever you are. You can
Android or iPhone?
Android or iPhone. What a world we're living in these days.
Why is it important for the channel for people to subscribe?
Because YouTube is a bit of a gatekeeper, and they give you different abilities of analytics. They give you different things you're allowed to do when your channel gets to be different sizes. So the real number we're aiming for right now is 1,000. That's the next big milestone. We passed 100 a little while ago, which was
great.
Extremely exciting. So
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
It doesn't cost anything.
That's the thing, right? We think about subscribing. Sometimes it's like, oh, is there a cost? There's zero cost to subscribe. All it means is you're telling YouTube, I like this channel. I like what they're doing. Please let me know when they do something new. It won't be obnoxious or anything. We don't upload that many videos a week.
And they don't pry into your history. And
they
all
don't
that kind
pry
of stuff.
anything. No, it's all good.
It's a
We
good thing
can't
to
see
do.
anything about what you're doing. But all it just means is you're like, it's just a little click of support. It means we can get higher up in the YouTube analytics, right? Because YouTube will say, oh, people are watching and liking this channel. Let's maybe other people would like to enjoy this channel.
And you can comment, right? And you can participate in the back and forth.
Yeah, so that makes it easier too. So you can be notified. You can comment on the video as we're doing it and all that stuff, and your info will come up. So speaking of commenting, please do say hello. Right now we have, this is very technical, but we have normal latency put on. So you guys are actually seeing this a little bit after we're saying it. So there's a little bit of a delay. So that's okay. That's part
That way,
of
if anybody curses, we can cut them out.
I wish like a bing, bing. But about that, there was something I was going to say. Oh, we got a new computer. So I'm hoping the sort of technical issues we've had the last couple of weeks might be better. Tanya, if you're on here, please let me know. Tanya's been amazing at letting us know of our foibles, and I'm really grateful for that. It's extremely helpful because I don't know because I'm here. So thank you for
Extremely
that.
talented staff.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
What a crew.
What a crew.
What a crew. We almost, I would dare say we almost have too much fun. Almost too much fun. Just enough fun.
And let me tell you, that doesn't exist on every church staff. No.
Can confirm. No.
Me too.
Yeah. I actually had a question for you that I didn't get to ask in the podcast we just recorded.
Yes.
Because we were talking about pastoral care. And I wanted to know about your experience of pastoral care now and your experience of pastoral care when you last served this church. Because I'm assuming that, I imagine a lot of our staff is different. So I'm assuming some of our congregation is different too. Is how you handle situations different? Are you drawing upon similar tools in your pastoral care
That's really
work?
interesting. So there was about 9 years in between my time previously here and my time now. And Linda Kinney's the only staff member has been here the whole time.
Ugh, she's so amazing.
Love Linda. What's different? Well, last time too, I was also part-time. I'm part-time now. I was also doing TV reporting.
Right.
And there were a lot of deaths in the last 6 months of my time here. So 9 funerals I conducted in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very difficult time for the life of the congregation. A lot of people were dying. I would say the difference in my time now is that I know myself better, right? So even though, now I've been ordained 30 years. This 2021 is 30 years of ordination for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm in my, I've served in 4 different congregations, so I'm coming back to the 3rd congregation that I served.
Okay.
One in Scarsdale, North Greenwich Congregational. I was there as solo pastor, and then I came here, and then I went to Wilton for 8.5 years, and now I'm back here.
Okay.
In Scarsdale, I was in it for 3 years in my first church and ministry. So I would say knowing myself better allows me to just relax and rest in the moment. So being the non-anxious presence in an anxious environment is easier for me because I'm less anxious.
Yeah.
Right? If
Yeah.
you clear out and scoop out your stuff,
Right.
it allows you to be more present.
Right.
And not, we were talking about this in the podcast, not to be thinking ahead about what do I need to say, or, oh my goodness, I don't know how to handle this. But in terms of my own spiritual journey too, I trust that God is there and is going to do something unique in that situation, in that moment. And I don't need to figure it out.
Yeah.
I just need to allow it to happen and get out of the way.
Okay.
So maybe that just comes with age. I'm 62 now, which some people would say is very young.
It is
and other
very
people
young.
would say you're an ancient.
Oh, stop. Stop.
Maybe nobody watching this would say ancient, but
Yeah.
People my daughter's age would say ancient. But I'm more. I've seen more
Yeah.
in life.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
love this congregation too. So it's so easy to love the people here.
Yeah.
And I feel can I just tell you too, thank you for the people that have, and I hear it all the time that, we're so glad to have you back. It's such a loving, welcoming community. And my husband who came here recently said, wow, that is such a welcoming congregation. And I said, yes, it is.
It really is. And
It is.
and I think something I noticed when I first came here, this is actually, I was trying to count and I always lose count. I think depending on how you count, this is either my 7th or 8th congregation.
Wow.
Yep. It's been a journey. But that the way that the people here are intentional about loving each other. The way that they are so they really, it's incredible. You are other places and people say lovely things and it's wonderful and grateful, but there's something about the just consistent and thoughtful way that people love each other here, I find really incredible.
And how
It's
many years
wonderful.
has this congregation been in existence? I'm trying to remember.
Well, officially 38 years.
So that's not necessarily the case in congregations that have been around a lot longer. So it's
Sure.
relatively a newer congregation,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Granted, it had a history from another, but a lot more
Right.
people have come in. But that's not a given
Yeah.
in congregational life. And the amount of people who take it upon themselves to reach out to
Yeah.
others as family
Yeah.
is not necessary. I mean, in other places, you have to kind of prod people to
Right.
do that, or it's their role as a deacon or something like that.
Right. Right. And it's absolutely wonderful. And I can see what you mean. It's really easy to love the people here, and they love you back. And it's just like,
right.
it's just a big circle of everybody's happy, which is so unusual.
Or they're not happy,
know.
and that's okay too.
Right.
But they
No,
allow. There's an opening of there's a generosity of spirit to let people in.
Yeah. And I think it ties also into what you and I were talking about in the podcast, that we don't pretend to have the answers. And I think the sort of automatic vulnerability of that means that we're all here kind of trying our best and doing our best. And I don't know if there isn't the ego of thinking we all have the answers or something. I'm still always trying to figure out. Maybe
There's
it's
some humility in
Yeah,
that, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't do well when people come at me and say, when they're not living in the gray area, and they're like so sure of something that, this is the way that, this is what God says. I kind of react to that because I grew up in that.
Sure, me too.
And I'm still working on my stuff.
Sure.
About that and how I react to that.
Yeah.
But I would not do well in a church where there is less ambiguity about things.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I grew up in a similar place. I can definitely understand that, growing up in a Southern sort of vaguely or mostly evangelical church. You know, it's like they have all the answers. Do they though?
And they'll let you know.
And they will tell you. That's the thing, is that people have all the answers. They will tell you.
Yeah.
You don't
And
have
as
to
women,
ask.
it's usually not in favor of us. We were going to talk some about listening, and
Yes.
I wanted to throw out a question to our listening audience
do.
to say, what makes a person a good listener for you? When do you feel really heard and seen by others?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
Because I think our society is starving for that. I used that as a quote from somebody that our children are starving. It was a quote from a book called "What Happened to You" by Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey, which really good. It's basically, the book is a transcription of their conversations, and he's deals with trauma in childhood. So instead, their whole premise is changing, instead of what happened, talking about what happened to you in terms of what kind of things in your past inform who you are today. And then having trauma-informed educators and therapists so that people can then go in and excavate that stuff so that people can be healed.
Yeah.
Because trauma needs to be touched. So, but they talked about how we live in a society where our adults, certainly, but our children are starved for authentic connection with others. And one of the things we did at the women's retreat was this eye-to-eye contact for 30 seconds with one other person. And 30 seconds seems like an eternity.
Yeah.
For
Especially
so
if you
long.
don't have anything to say.
I know.
You're
And
not supposed
what
to say
happened
something.
was, and then we did a mantra back and forth of, may your suffering come to an end. May you feel deeply loved, for indeed you are. And the ability to be able to look and see without an agenda is extremely intimate. It made people cry.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because I think people have not felt seen, either through COVID and being isolated, or even just in our moving day to day. They go, "How are you?" Great.
Yeah. Right.
We're so busy with our own stuff and all of the things we have to do
Yeah.
that just spending time talking with someone like this.
Right. Well, and when's the last time they were looked in the eye and said, "You are loved"? So like,
Without
so
it
clearly
being
and
anything
intentionally.
other agenda, like no
Yeah.
sexualized thing.
Right.
Just
a
you
pure
are the
expression.
beloved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a space that you created.
Yeah.
How did you go about creating the retreat? Like, where did you start when you were thinking about setting it up? Like, did you have a goal in mind? Did you have an activity you were really excited about?
Well, you know me, I like to go deep quickly.
Yes, I do.
Anybody who's heard a sermon of mine knows that I don't waste time. I know I have like 15 minutes and I got to go deep fast because authenticity is really important to me.
Yeah.
So I'll oftentimes talk about something in my own experience, kind of exposing that so that because heart speaks to heart.
Right.
Right. So I knew I wanted to go deep quickly, and I knew I only had a little bit of time to do that. Plus, we wanted to make it, there was yoga so that we really fed our body, minds, and spirits. And I had been reading through the fall, in addition to the Karen Armstrong book that we've been following for the sermon series, called 12 Steps to Compassionate Life.
Yeah.
This one is called Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff, Neff, and she is a professor at UT Austin. And she wrote a book called Self-Compassion and does a lot of self-revelation, and I shared with the women at the retreat. She talks about how she was, a professor, and she had pretty great marriage, and she had an affair on her husband. And the shame that she felt from that.
Right.
And dealing with that and the devastation that it brought to her husband.
Sure.
And the man with whom she had the affair didn't leave his wife. And so then she was kind of, okay.
Yeah.
So how did she put into action self-compassion? So doing like the unthinkable, things that society would really shame. Certainly the church would shame around, you don't cheat on your spouse.
Right.
That's breaking a vow, right? And she walks through it, and it's very human and very lovely. So it allows anybody with any kind of thing, and we all have our stuff, right? The shame messages. It allows them to be held in a different way. And I think one of the things that I was even getting to in yesterday's sermon was, and last month's sermon, was that the shame messages that are there have to be excavated because they will drive us in ways that make us act in compulsive ways otherwise and keep us from being authentic with one another. So if I can own that sometimes, I was in a situation recently that I felt like, oh my gosh, this feels like middle school, and I feel like I'm on the outside looking in of the popular kids group, and it felt horrible. But I just sat and held my belly, which is one of the exercises that Kristen Neff gives in this book. And while that may sound really ridiculous, I was transported back to 5th grade when I was bullied on the playground. And I thought, wow, that is still there for me. So if I can love that, then chances are the next time I go into a situation and I was able to, in the process of that week doing those exercises, actually sit there and go, okay, so this is happening. And I can love myself in this and not react and just go, wow, this is so interesting. So I wanted to bring some practical things. And Pat Milo, who led part of it too, did a very practical exercise of looking at talking to our emotional self, our intellectual self, our body, and our spiritual self, or our true essence. So in our intellectual self is our thinking piece, or where we measure up to people and how we're constantly, kind of doing that. Okay, am I working? What do I need to do? The emotional self are our feelings, which we don't think about enough. Right. And then our spiritual self is the most authentic that we can be, our true essence, that always has something to say if we allow it. It's different than the Holy Spirit, but it can be attuned to what's the best thing for me to do right now. And then we can listen then to God outside of ourselves too.
Well, that's so interesting. And so how do you go through the process of all those selves sort of
coming together? Yeah. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, and this is part of my training that I'm doing with the Hoffman Institute.
Yeah.
The emotional self and the intellectual self will be at war with one another.
Oh, sure.
Right? It's like, well, I feel this way, and you shouldn't be doing this. You should be.
Right.
And the shoulds are big with the intellect, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or like, you shouldn't be. You're creating drama.
Or as my friend Heather, I've said this on the live stream before, don't should yourself.
Exactly. It's perfect. And it's so true.
It's so true. Don't
So
judge yourself.
it's just about giving each part a voice.
Yeah.
And then, whether it's journaling it out and then just coming to a truce. The self-compassion is loving each part is important. I don't know about you, but I underestimate the power of my body.
Yes.
Right? I don't exercise enough.
Sure.
And that's my intellect saying that too. But my body is screaming out for exercise and to be fed in a healthy way.
Right.
To get enough rest.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it was bringing in mind of a story for me, which is a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, I got really very much into yoga. And that was very much a very healing practice for me. I'd always wanted to be like a yoga person. And I realized that letting go of the idea of being a yoga person and just doing it
Right.
was a very helpful thing. And actually through that, like sort of coming to peace with my body and less being at war with it, which I had done for a solid 20 years, finding that peace actually transformed how I played the organ.
So I was going to ask you how it affected the rest of your life.
So
in what ways? So tell us.
So very much as a younger person playing the organ, because obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, playing the organ is you're using your entire body, your entire body. Like if you stub your toe, it's a bad day. And so the experience of that was really interesting because it meant when I would sit at the console, I would actually be aware of my whole body at the same time versus like my right hand's doing this and my left hand and my feet would kind of be like up to their own devices, or vice versa or whatever. It meant I could actually think about my whole body at the same time and feel my whole body at the same time, which I didn't realize I wasn't doing until all of a sudden I could.
I wonder if it came out differently, if the sound was different. It's almost like it feels like, you can speak from here up or from down in your diaphragm.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like the quality of your music was different?
Well, I think I had always struggled with rhythm as something. I was just having a steady rhythm. And I think I did a lot of work in college. My minor in college was actually in Dalcroze Eurythmics, which is the study of rhythm.
Love that.
It was really fun. I did like a teacher training thing. It was the greatest. And I did it just selfishly because I needed to get better at it. So that helped, but I don't think it ever got fully absorbed into my body until sort of all the pieces came together. And that was until I was like 29, 30. But we got there eventually. I got there eventually. Also, funny story. This is totally.
Let's hear.
I know growing up, parents buy kids shoes that are a little bit bigger so that you can grow into them. Well, it turns out we'd done that with my organ shoes. And I'd worn the same organ shoes for 10 years. Turns out they were too big.
Oh. All right. So what's the metaphor?
The ones I wasn't fighting my shoes through same shoes, college and graduate school. And all of a sudden, I think my pedal accuracy improved by a solid 25%.
Wow.
At least.
I love that story.
I got so mad.
Why do you think you bought them bigger in the first place? Is that old thing of you need to buy your shoes bigger?
I think honestly, my mom with the best intentions didn't want my toes pushing up against the end of the shoes and be uncomfortable.
Or to have to buy shoes every 3 weeks.
Or to have to buy shoes every 3 weeks. Organ shoes are not cheap.
Right.
Right. And I think it was like we'll see how long this lasts kind of a thing. And those were the same organ shoes I wore. I didn't buy new organ shoes until not that long ago.
There's something about having things that fit.
That's so funny. I love that. That story.
It's an interesting story.
Isn't that interesting?
When did you start playing organ? How young were you?
11. It's pretty young. Reaching the pedals was a bit of a struggle.
And what was it that took you to doing that? I mean, what prompted you?
Well, I started piano at 5. I'm one of those annoying people that I don't remember learning to read music. It's just sort of always been in my head.
Prodigy.
Well, no, I mean, I was so young, I think. And it sort of always sort of made sense to me. I was always very much exposed to music and I was like, oh, this is how it's built. Cool. And then, my piano teacher retired when I was 11. And I think my mother had arranged some like really fancy piano teacher for me. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to take organ. Because my organ teacher, who was also my choir director at the time, was like, you should take organ. And I was like, okay. Because I will admit, because he was teaching a friend of mine's older sister. And I remember because I was always sort of around the church, that particular church, and I would like hide in the pews up in the balcony listening to her lessons or listening to people practice. I just thought like the sound of it was so captivating to me, and I was like, that sounds powerful and that sounds really cool, and I want to make that much noise. And just, like you hear a really big organ, and I think there's very few things more thrilling. So I just started to learn the organ.
So this is another shout out to mentors and teachers.
Yeah.
You can have a huge impact early on.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And
Because
just being
to really, as
questions.
well as your mom,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
to
yeah.
give you the go ahead to kind of encourage that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she was always like, whatever. I mean, my family was very much like, what do you want to try? What do you want to do? What do you want to learn about? It was very learning, encouraging. I don't realize until I was older, how special that was. That we were always going to museums and being exposed to great music and being exposed to wonderful things so that we could sort of make up our own mind about what we wanted to do. And being a musician, I think my mom always secretly wanted to be a musician. I think she was very excited to have a musician daughter. She was
Living through you.
She was really into that. Yeah, she was really into that idea. Hi, Mom. I think she still likes it. And I like, also like the practical side of me saw what being an organist in the church was about. Like I got to, stop me if I've told you the story already, but I would like sit in people's offices and they would have like kind of contentious meetings. I think they would forget I was there or they just didn't care. And I was like probably like 13, 14. And so I got to see sort of how the sausage gets made, which was so, I think, crucial to my experience of being an organist. I think a lot of people don't get that. I think they get, you play the organ and you conduct the choir and that's your job, which is honestly 10% of my job. My job is everything else.
Say more.
And well, it's the relationships, it's the conversations, it's the problem solving, which is why we're talking about this incredible team we have here. That's why I love my job so much right now. Well, in general, and I have for a long time, but it's particularly great right now because the other 90% of my job is all the great things.
Right.
I can play the organ and conduct the choir anywhere. I could go get a job anywhere. But I don't want to because the other 90% here is so great.
Well, and the piece that is so underrated is the managing of different personalities too, right? Because
Right.
I mean, in your area as well, with different very talented voices that come in, you have to make sure that you're giving time to each one and all
Yeah.
of that. Plus then coming in on staff and fitting in as a piece of that. So it's a lot of balls up in the air, right?
Yeah. And I think being an organist now, I say organist is kind of like a catch-all for being a director of music. I guess say director of music, it just feels pretentious. But being an organist is there's been a big sea shift in what that looks like. Because there was I would say the generation before me, it was, and this was everywhere. I mean, absolutely everywhere. It was a cult of personality.
Yes.
It was very much this like
There's
the
still some
organist-
places that have those people.
Yes. They're less than there used to be, but those of us are coming up. Like I've followed that situation over and over and over and over and over
Where
again.
they were performers.
And they were very much a personality and very much, and then I got into the field thinking that would be me. I'm not gonna say it's not, because I'm a bit of I'm a little much, but it's,
You fit well on our staff.
we have fun.
Because we all are.
We're all a little much. It's
Yeah.
great. But that's just not the experience of being an organist in the modern day world. Also, we'll say it, being a young female organist in a modern day world, which is, I've been the youngest one on staff for forever. And our new children's director of children's ministries. Is the first time someone's been younger than me on set, which is great. I'm really into this idea.
Yeah, but don't sell yourself short, because if you didn't have the goods to bring, then
Right.
there would be issue, right? It's because
Yeah.
you can do so well and you lead and you perform at such a high level that then you can be one of.
Yeah. And then
Right.
I think now, especially as I've grown and I have maturity and experience, it's my experience of it is different. I used to be a little scrappier about it, but I think it's, it's a fun thing, and it's a fun, I love my job. It's very much a calling.
One of the first Sundays I was back here, and I was gone for 9 years, for those of you who don't know, but I came back and I went and I just was listening at the door before worship to the rehearsal, and I started crying because I thought, oh yes, the level of music here is so high. But it's not just that it's a performance level. It opens up your heart, right? Because it's so spiritual, and the music is welcoming. So, I mean, I even said that about the hymn on Sunday. I said, I haven't heard that hymn, but that's one of my favorite ones, and you chose it for this week. And
Oh my gosh, the number of times, the synergy between us, or like the Holy Spirit happening, because I told, the funny thing was, 5 minutes before you said that, I told Scott and Risa and Dustin, are incredible soloists. Like, oh my goodness, like they're the ones that
From
make
the Met,
all
right?
that thing. Yeah, they make all that thing, all of that happen. Like, they're just, oh my goodness, what a dream to collaborate with these incredible musicians.
So true.
I told them not 5 minutes before you said that, well, I scheduled this one because the theme goes really well, but I'm not sure that many people know it. So we'll just go with it. It was very much like a fingers crossed. And then you walk in, you're like, I love this.
And no one ever sings it.
I was like, of course. Why didn't I just trust?
And the hymn was, oh, love that will not let me go.
That will let me go. I rest my weary soul in thee.
Yeah, and it was penned after, I think the composer had just lost his family.
Really?
Yes, I want to say yes.
We'll have to bring out. I have him story.
Yeah,
books.
me too. But
I'll have to find
that
those.
is one of the ones where extreme tragedy had occurred, and here I think he was like going back over from the U.S. to England and on the boat.
Oh, that's it as well with my soul.
Oh, okay, but I think something similar.
Something similar. I believe it. The
I mean,
tone
and think of that one.
right?
It is well with my soul.
Yeah.
The fact that, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they'd been killed in boating accident or ship. Yeah.
Yeah. Think ship. The
It was a major ship.
major ship. Yeah. Like a Titanic situation.
Yeah, right,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I love that hymn.
I know.
And it's so musically so good. It's one of those more like intricate ones. Musically, there's like lots of.
I hope people are getting into this conversation
I don't know.
as much
We're
as you and I
having
are.
fun. We're having a great time. Let us know. I know a lot of our friends like to watch this after the fact.
Okay.
So if you're joining us after the fact, we're so glad you're here. Feel free. You can leave a comment in the comment box, which is still available. It's not the chat that happens. There's the chat, which is actually over here. There's the chat, and then the comment box below. I feel like a.
And we'll answer your questions later.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, we'd love, you can keep that comment box going. We check it, we read it. So to answer, to go back to your question about listening.
Yeah.
If you have some thoughts about that, please put it in the comment box. We will be there. We'll check it. We'll comment back.
We're talking about that some in the Congregational Care Committee as I'm doing some training with them about how to be able to listen on a deeper level and how to move your own presuppositions out of the way so that you don't. Because sometimes, when someone shares something really difficult or tragic, your own anxiety or my own anxiety may come up and like, oh my gosh, I can't leave them there. They need to be in a happier place.
Yeah.
So you want to just, jump in with, well, look on the good side or look on the positive side and, or, not all's bad or look what happened over here.
Right.
Versus just, wow, that must be so difficult.
Yeah.
So difficult.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that? And asking someone, so how do you make sense of that? Or where is God?
Yeah.
Because the reality is God won't let any of us fall, right? We're going to be held.
So as a closing thought, because I think that's hard for people to
So
know
hard.
what to say in those situations. Do you have any tips or tricks for people that they can, when someone comes to them with something difficult and you kind of get that like, oh, I need to say the right thing. It's very much me. how do I say the right thing? How would you coach someone in that
There's
moment?
nothing more powerful than being just present without even having to say anything. You may, if somebody comes in and says, my dog just died, or my mother fell last week and, and broke things, for somebody just to say, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Because there's nothing that I can offer that will help my mother who's in
Right.
Vero Beach, Florida.
Right.
Other than, I'll pray for her.
Yeah.
Or, that must be so hard for you.
Yeah.
Or, wow.
There's something very simple about that.
Yeah, we don't have to fix things.
Right. That's a big thing.
Huge thing.
That's a
Because
huge
that
thing.
says more about me
Right.
feeling out of control than
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me today.
Thank you.
I have a feel. I hope you'll come back.
I would love to come back,
I haven't
but
scared her off. Yes.
yeah. And we miss Ed. We'll look forward to seeing Ed back on this Sunday, right? Ed,
Yeah.
here? Sunday. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us for Lunchtime Live. I hope this was fun for you. It was super fun for us.
Totally.
So leave a comment in the comment box. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and give it a thumbs up while you're at it. Just do all the things. We really appreciate it so much. So have a great day and have a
Thank
great week,
you.
everybody.